Hello everyone, my name is Donald Teheran, and today I will be presenting our work on capturing tactile properties of real surfaces for haptic reproduction. This project is a collaboration between the University of Saarland, the German Research Institute for Artificial Intelligence, and the Institute of Science and Technology, Austria. In recent years, research has considered fabrication methods that include haptic feedback. For example, through design tools able to change an object's surface properties, or through active stimulation approaches, we can design for the sense of touch. Similarly, novel fabrication methods that include tactile aspects have been used in conjunction with visual information using virtual reality to influence a user's material perception. In this work, we focus on haptic reproduction. This means that we start from real-world information to fabricate tactile properties, and in order to do so, we follow an end-to-end process. To replicate physical properties, we use a microgeometry capturing method. This uses a transparent elastomeric silicone, which is coated with a reflective aluminum powder. This enables us to visualize stable surface deformations of an object pressed against it. To create consistent reconstructions, we build a bench setup, which is calibrated for the used sensor. By using RGB LEDs and a high-resolution camera with a macro lens, we are able to reconstruct a surface's microgeometry using a single image. To create the reconstructed samples, our approach uses a straightforward photometric reconstruction approach. In our case, we use texture samples. These are placed in the bench setup and illuminated using the RGB LEDs. The reconstruction algorithm then creates a height map from this information, which is used as a displacement map onto a surface of a cuboid in Blender. We reconstructed the texture samples of a fabric sample book with varying tactile properties. Our approach captures the stable surface information of a total of 15 textures, which were then 3D printed. To evaluate our haptic reproduction process, we conducted a user study with 20 participants using a within subjects design. Our study consisted of two phases, namely an individual texture assessment phase and a surface similarity phase. In the first phase, participants were presented with a single sample and could explore its tactile properties using their index finger. Here, participants rated different psychophysical properties and the material they perceived. From our results comparing the original samples to their replicas, we see that all samples significantly differed in terms of hardness and hairiness, 9 samples in terms of roughness, bumpiness, and uniformity, 5 in terms of scratchiness, 2 in terms of isotropy, and none of the samples significantly different in terms of stickiness perception. Using a correlation analysis, we could then clearly see that there were 2 clusters of perceptions that were correlated with each other. While hardness, roughness, bumpiness, stickiness, and scratchiness were positively correlated with each other, they showed a significant inverse correlation to hairiness, uniformity, and isotropy. When asked which material participants perceived, the majority of the indications for our set of original samples were categorized as fabric-like indications. However, our 3D printed replicas made out of plastic were perceived to be different materials, such as wood-like, stone-like, and plastic-like materials. This indicates that simple surface variation caused a degree of uncertainty in terms of the material perception of the replicated samples. In the second phase of our study, participants were presented with 2 samples next to each other. They could touch both samples for a maximum amount of 5 seconds. For each possible combination, participant rated the similarity between these objects. Using this data, we performed a non-metric multidimensional scaling analysis. This is an indirect gradient analysis approach, which produces an ordination based on a distance or dissimilarity matrix. In other words, It visualizes the relationship between different objects. Here, we first determined the number of dimensions required. In our case, 3 dimensions was selected as a suitable amount based on the associated stress you can see here in the stress plot. This also corresponds to the amount of dimensions for haptic perception in related work. Next, we generated our perceptual space and plotted the original textures and the replicated samples. Lastly, from our original sample set, we took physical measurements in terms of roughness, hardness, and stickiness. This was then transformed onto the perceptual space. When interpreting the perceptual space, we clearly see that there are 2 different clusters that arise, consisting of the original and the replicated samples. This shows that there was a clear shift in tactile perception between these samples. And most likely, this shift was caused by a combination of roughness and hardness as indicated by the physical measurements. However, our set of replicated samples is highly distributed. This indicates a wide tactile gamut of our reproductions and underlines that by simply varying the surface variations of a fabricated material, its tactile perception can be influenced. From our results, we frame insights for approaches towards fabricating haptics. The used set of texture samples had varying tactile properties, some of which got lost during reproduction. From our results, we see that the unstable surface information, such as deformable hair-like structures, did affect the perceived compliance of the material, however, did not affect the perceived geometrical attributes, such as roughness. We did see that there was a coupling between perceived properties, such as an increase of hardness was correlated to an increase of roughness. Certain limitations apply to our approach. Firstly, our results focus on specific surface textures. It remains to be seen how results translate to different materials such as wood or metals. Similarly, our results are bound to the used printing technology and the materials. Lastly, as we only focused on tactile perception and users did not receive any visual stimuli, further work would need to investigate how haptic reproduction can serve mixed visual haptic scenarios, such as proxy objects for virtual reality applications. From our work, we conclude that the reconstruction of stable surface information is able to reproduce feel aesthetics and is able to build a wide gamut of tactile perceptions. In future approaches, we aim to use our results to predict how tactile properties will change upon reproduction and how we can build towards full haptic reproduction methods. For further details on this work, please check out our paper.